Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Maseches CHULLIN Daf Kufyot Gimel. We are holding actually just about halfway down the Amud. So you'll notice halfway down, Amar Shmuel. We speak so much about salty meat in order to extract its blood. So how do we actually go about it? What's the process involved? Here goes. Amar Shmuel. Eina basar. You're meant to know that the meat will not free itself of its blood unless you put it through a very intense salting process. Amar Shmuel. Eina basar yoytze midei damai. The basar will not leave from its blood. Interesting way of saying it. Basically, it will not be considered blood-free unless, Ella, imkain, unless he goes ahead and does as follows. Firstly, moil chay yafa yafa, he salts it really intensely, really properly. Umadicha yafa yafa, followed by a proper, thorough rinse. And then first I'll explain that moil chay yafa yafa indicates that it's not sufficient just to splatter it with sprinkle it with some salt, and then just rinse it off. It has to be saturated with salt. It has to sit on there. And the accepted, practice is to have it sit for an hour, and then you rinse it properly. Then it's blood-free. Itmar, however, we learned Rav Huna Amar Meliach Mediach. So he puts it at 2 steps, right? Salt and then rinse it. However, b'masnisa Tan in the Bryce, it seems to have 3 steps. Mediach, first you rinse it, so it's a pre-salting rinse, and then step number 2 uzamoileach. He salts it. And then step 3, Mediach, he rinses it again. Versus Rav Huna, who just lists 2 steps, salting and rinsing. Is there a machlokes? No, there is no dispute whatsoever. All agree. It's a 3-step process. Rinse, followed by a salting. And the point of rinsing, by the way, Farshim explained, is to remove the surface blood so that the salt doesn't just get stuck there. We want the salt to penetrate the piece of meat. So the rinse cleans it off. It opens up the pore. It gets it sort of ready for the salting process. All agree that's needed. There is no machlekes here. When Rav Huna presents it as a 2-step process, salting and rinsing without the original rinse, it was already, he already washed it. It was washed by the butcher. The butcher already rinsed it. Thus, only step 2 and 3 are necessary. Whereas the Bryce is speaking, it wasn't rinsed at the butcher. And therefore, a 3-step process is needed: rinsing, salting, and rinsing. Rav Dimi min Hardo, what do? Malachle, he would salt his meat b'milcha using salt, which was coarse, galanisa, like rock salt, big pieces, or manapitza, and then he would just bang it off. Rashi explains, the advantage was that you don't have to rinse it anymore, because when you use, thin table salt, it sort of dissolves and it gets all, embedded, so you have to rinse it off. But rock salt just draws out the blood, and it's sitting now on the in the rock, granules on the surface. Just give it a little bang to shake off the salt. Amar of Mesharshir. Your typical piece of meat needs to be salted to ensure that it's blood-free. But there are some organs within the animal that are known to be blood-free. Ein machzikin dam, don't presume there's any blood in the following items. Within the digestive system. So which specific areas are we talking about? Terguma was applied, it was explained to refer to the following. Akarkasha, the last section of the large intestine. Umeyaya, and the digestive system. Rashi explains it refers to all the stomachs, the keva, the keres, the sharadakin, or the small intestines, but hadra dekanta, and the section which is called hadra, it goes around the area called kanta. So that section of intestine is presumed to be free of blood. Amar Shmuel. Further explains Shmuel that when you salt, ensure that your salting bowl is perforated. which will serve as a drainage system to allow the blood to trickle out rather than just sitting there with the meat, in which case it might get reabsorbed inside your meat. Amar Shmuel, Manichan basar maliach. The meat that's being salted should be placed only ela al gabe kli menukav. It must be placed in a bowl that has holes, which allows the blood to trickle out. Now, Rav Sheshes malach legarma garma, he was careful to salt one cut of meat at a time. Asks the Gemara, why only one at a time? Trey, two together, my time. And what's wrong with two together? Mishum de parish mahayu balahai. Apparently, because he was concerned that some blood might leave piece A and enter piece B. Therefore, only one at a time. Well, then, even the same piece of meat, the blood can leave the top part and enter the bottom part. Chadnami, even one piece of meat being salted on its own presents a similar concern because parish mahagis, the blood might leave this side of the piece, ubal hagis, and then get absorbed on the other side. So you'll never be able to salt any meat. Ella, so it must be Leishna, doesn't really matter. Meaning, Rashi explains, based on the Gemara back yesterday and Kufya Beis Amud Beis. Kol zman shetrudim lifloit, says Rashi, einan boilim. As long as the piece of meat is preoccupied, so to speak, with expelling its content. You know, while you're talking, you can't really listen too well. So while you're giving out, you're expelling, you're releasing, you're not going to be absorbing anything. And since both pieces of meat are sitting together and releasing their blood at the same time, at the same rate, while that's happening, there's no absorption going on. And that blood just trickles down through the holes out of the, right? So there's no concern about absorption. So again, just like within the same piece of meat, there's no concern because it's just expelling. The same would apply to two pieces side by side. Now, unless they're working with different rates of expulsion, as we learned the other day with the fish versus the chicken. But here it's two identical, pieces of material that are expelling at the same time, at the same rate. Now, presumably, you put them in the kli at the same time, right? So the process is happening simultaneously. There's no concern about reabsorption. Unless it's a kli without holes, and just sitting, it's just immersed in its blood. Then, as soon as it finishes releasing its blood, now it's open to absorption, it's going to reabsorb its own blood. But if it's a proper drainage system, it's okay. Amar Shmuel Mishmar Bechia. Furthermore, instructs Shmuel regarding this topic. Hashevim Rafrakta Shel Behem. If one cracks the back of the neck, the backbone, Koidem Shateti Nafsha, before the animal actually becomes fully lifeless. So after the shchita, he goes and cracks the neck. Hareza Machbedes Habasar. He shouldn't do that because he's going to be adding artificial weight to the meat. Because, as Rashi explains, the animal in distress, is trying to expel its blood from its arteries, during the shchita process. And then when this happens, the animal is in extreme distress and it loses that ability to propel that blood out. And what happens to that blood? It now goes back from the arteries, from the duct. It now gets absorbed into the meat, into the flesh of the animal. And that busser now becomes extra heavy. In which case, when he sells this meat, this butcher is going to be deceiving his customers, charging them double the price, or double the weight for the blood inside, right? He's going to be reabsorbing this blood into the system, into the meat. Now, what exactly does he mean? What did Shmuel have in mind? Is it just a monetary issue? You shouldn't be selling them because you're overcharging? Or is it more than just a chesed mishpat monetary issue? Is it perhaps a yeridei issue? Perhaps isser beheter issue, even for the butcher himself? How could that be? Let's see. The question was posed. Hey, Chikama, what exactly did he have in mind? Machbedes habasar, v'goizel sabriyos. It's adding weight to the basar. it's defrauding his customers. Why? Mishum. And the reason is because, right, he was explaining it, Mishum Mavli Adam Bevar, because of that extra blood being absorbed in the organs of the animal. So it's merely a monetary issue. But let's say he's not selling it. He's just eating it himself. Holiday day, but for him himself, Shabbat, it's okay. Because ultimately the salt will extract any blood, right? That's one way to look at it. Or you can say, it's more than just a choshen mishpat monetary issue. It's even forbidden to the butcher himself, to the fellow who did this, to eat it on his own because, as Rashi explains, this isn't really natural blood. Yeah, the salt can extract blood which was naturally, in the meat, but this blood is imported from the outside. It's the blood that's circulating in the artery system of the animal. It doesn't belong in the meat, and now because of this trauma, it's going to embed himself in the meat. So it came from the outside in, and this blood, says Rashi, perhaps the salt cannot extract anymore, and therefore he himself can't eat it. Forget about selling it. You can't even eat it. We leave it as an unresolved question. Okay, so in summation, salting process takes place in a kli with holes to drain out the blood. It's rinsed, it's salted, it's rinsed again. And you can do many at a time because as long as it's expelling, it's not going to be absorbing. Says the Mishnah, so we discussed refraining from serving meat and milk together on the same table, right? Even for different customers, because it may be, mixed up. But regarding chicken, it's not an issue. If one places chicken with cheese on the same table, there's no issue, there's no lav. Now, Rashi explains, obviously there's no lav because it was never asam and Torah to place things on the same table. Rather, the main objective of the Mishnah in wording it this way is to indicate to us that, true, serving them together is not an Isser D'Oraisa, but if you should actually eat them together, chicken and milk together, that would constitute an Isser D'Oraisa. Let's see the Gemara. But apparently, if he eats them together, even chicken, right, with milk, he has transgressed, does that mean to say, basar oif, right, chicken flesh, b'chalav mixed with milk is asar d'oraisa, which is really a big machlokes, whether it's d'oraisa or not, we'll see in the next Mishnah. Do you mean to say that? Ema, no, says the Gemara, who says? Not necessarily. Ema, perhaps we can learn the Mishnah differently. Amala so'if makvin ala shulchan, if one serves the chicken in conjunction with the cheese on the same dining room table, einoi ba, it can never come, it can never generate Issa D'Oraisa, because even if we should eat them together, it's really not Asr Min Torah. Like the other Shita we're going to see in the next Mishnah, but keep this Shita. Oh, here comes the Mishnah. Basar Behema Torah. We speak so much about the Isra Basar B'chalav to be cooked together, eaten together. What type of meat, what type of milk qualifies for this Isra? Says the Mishnah, very limited. It has to be of a kosher variety. Behema Torah. Right? Basar behema Torah, the meat of a kosher animal, mixed with milk of the same type, of a kosher type, b'chalav behema Torah, that's asr lavashal, basar b'ano. You may not cook it together, and if he does, you can't even have benefit from that material, let alone eat it. But if it's basar behema Torah, flesh from a kosher animal, mixed with milk from an unkosher animal, that's not b'chalev imoy. Imoy means it's the same type, it's his mother's milk. But if it's from an elephant, b'chalav behema tmeya, or vice versa, basar behema tmeya, the flesh of an unkosher animal mixed with kosher milk b'chalav behema Torah, mutar lavashal, or tabano, you can cook them and have anah from that. Okay, so according to Tanakama, the Isra Basar b'chalav applies to behema, to chaya, to oif of the kosher variety. Rabbi Kiva disagrees. Rabbi Kiva Eimer, chaya v'oif eino min Torah. The primary Isser Basar B'chalav Min Torah is only Basar Behema. But Basar of Chaya, an undomesticated type of animal, or of a chicken, that's not Asar Min Torah. Shenemar, a pasuk, which is repeated 3 times in the Torah, right? They said, Vashal Gadi, should not cook the flesh of a goat, B'chalev Imoy, the milk of its mother, meaning milk of a kosher animal, right? It says it 3 times. Why the repetition? it's meant to limit, to exclude, to define the Isser. Prat as opposed to lachaya, flesh of an animal, ulaif, or of a fowl, or ubehemat mei, of an unkosher animal. Rashi explains that the first gedi excludes a bird. Gedi is an animal, a behemoth, it's not a bird. The next gedi excludes a chaya. Now typically, usually we say chaya is included under the behemoth banner. Chaya and behemoth are synonymous, but here, the fact that it's an extra pasuk is coming to tell you, no, here it's different. We stick to behemoth, not to chaya. And the third gedi is to exclude the unkosher types, the unkosher family of animals. And Rashi adds, what about a kosher type which is not a gedi? I mean, the pasuk specifies goat, perhaps only goats. What about a sheep? What about a cow? And the Gemara Rashi brings that the Gemara will discuss how we know that it covers all types of kosher, animals of the kosher family. Okay, so according to Rekiva, it's only behema, not chay v'oif. A third sheet is Rabbi Saglili Aimer. He says Nemar. He says it covers behema and chay, but not oif. How do I know? Nemar le'sech l'kol nevela. In the same pasuk, it says don't need a nevela, and then it says v'nemar lo'iseva shel gedi b'chalei v'imay. So we make that correlation. Why are they both in the same pasuk? To match them up. As she'asa mishum nevela, a type of animal which is susceptible to the halacha of nevela, such as behema or chaya. If it dies, you can't eat it. Also lavashal b'chol, that too cannot be cooked in milk. So that covers behema and chaya. What about a fowl? What about chicken? Oif she'asa, which also has the isser mishum nevela. Perhaps yochel yeyasa lavashal b'chol. It's also forbidden with milk. Talmud leimar. The pasuk ends with the words b'chalei v'imay, in its mother's milk. Only a behema has that phenomenon. Yotza oif, as opposed to fowl, she'ein leichel v'im. There's no mother's milk there, so it's not applicable to the flesh of fowl. So we have three shittas. Tanakama applies it to all three classes of animals. Behema, chaya, v'oif, provided they're tahir, right? Rabbi Saglili excludes birds, and Rabbi Kiva excludes chaya and oif, minatir. Now, we all agree that, although the pasuk references gedi, we expand it to all other types of behemoths of the kosher family. Be they goats, sheep, oxen, right? Cows. How do I know? How do I know to expand it to other types? Amar Blazot, Amar Kro. The pasuk speaks about Yehuda sending the goats there. Amar Kro, Vayishlach Yehuda. Vayishlach Yehuda as gedi ha'izim, in exchange for his item there. So it says gedi ha'izim. Return to Talmud base. Why does the pasuk have to say gedi ha'izim? Isn't it repetitive? I mean, gedi is a goat, and izim. The answer is to tell you, kan gedi izim. Specifically in this case, the gedi is limited to izim. So izim defines what gedi is. It's a goat. But this implies that elsewhere, where it just says the word gedi, like lo yisavashel gedi b'chalev imay, stam, without defining it further, that covers all types of kosher animals. I feel a part of a rachel b'mashma covers even a cow, even a sheep. Now we know that lo yisavashel gedi b'chalev imay is not limited to a goat. Rather, it covers all types of behemoths within the kosher family. So as the Gemara who says, v'leilef minei, perhaps we should use this as a source. Just like over there it's limited to the goat type, same with basar b'chalav. Answer is ksib karachrin. We have another pasuk. Yet another pasuk. This is by Rivka Imenu, who gave Yaakov to wear the skins of the goats, right, to make him feel hairy, to Yitzchak to get the brachas. And what does it say over there? Ksib karachrin nevas oiros g'dayei ha'izim. Once again, we have g'dayei and izim, which is sort of a repetition, to tell you once again that only in this case does g'di specifically mean a goat. Kan g'dayei ha'izim ha'kol makom shenemar g'di stam, but elsewhere, like by basar b'chalav, where it says g'di without defining it further, that covers all types of kosher varieties. Afilu parav rachel b'mashma. Asks the Gemara who says, once again, perhaps we should learn from here Just like by this pasuk, Gedoye means izim. The same with basar b'chalav. Gedi means gedi. V'leilaf minei. The answer is havalehu shnei ksuvin aban ke'echad. We have two psukim, this one and the previous one, which are basically telling us the same thing. That Gedoye is limited to izim, and we know that when the Torah repeats the same concept twice, it could have just said it once and we could just learn from there, right? The point of repeating it twice is to say it's limited to these two cases and these two cases only. Whenever we have two ksuvim haboim ke'echad teaching the same identical item, ein melamin, they don't serve as a source to elsewhere. So sure, in these two cases, Gedoye means izim, but by basar b'chalav, Gedi means all types. That's true according to the Shita that says you can't learn from a double pasuk. But the one who says you could learn from a double pasuk, now we're back stuck. How do we know that Gedi is more than izim? It's more than just a double pasuk. If you look at the psukim, we have an extra hey. Right? It says Vishlach Yudas Gedi ha izim, because Gedi is ha, the extra hey, and the same way Rivka as Oyrois Gedoye ha izim, the extra hey is telling us. Ism ha izim, the extra hey, isn't it indicating that the A's requirement is limited to this case, but not to be applied elsewhere. Okay, so in conclusion, we know that the issur of mixing basar b'chalav applies to all types of behemoths of the kosher family. Amar Shmuel. What else do we learn from this triple pasuk? Right, this is 3 times. We learn many halachas. The first Gedi tells us, the rabbi says, achelav. Oh, even chelav, which is really forbidden on its own, forbidden fats. If it's mixed with milk, it gets an additional issur. Because now it's a new product called basar b'chalav. So you over 2 isurim, one on account of its chelav, that pre-existing issur, now the new issur basar b'chalav. Next, the next Gedi is coming to tell us, the rabbi says, amesa. Once again, even an animal who's already usher because it died, it's a carcass and a vela. But now that it's mixed with milk, it gets an additional isra, basar b'chalav. Next Gedi is l'rabbi zashlo, to include the fetus, the unborn animal. That's also considered meat with respect to basar b'chalav. The next Gedi lo'itzis hadam, to exclude blood. Blood is not flesh. The next Gedi lo'itzis hashilya, to exclude the embryonic sac. That's not considered basar. And finally Gedi lo'itzis hatmeya, to exclude the unkosher varieties, which are incompatible with a gedi, which is a goat, which is kosher. Now, the obvious question is, how can we learn 6 halachas from 3 psukim? It only says gedi 3 times, and we're learning 6 things. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's see the end of the pasuk. L'savashal gedi and what? B'chaliv imay, and it says it 3 times. The first one is loy b'chalav zachar, only the chalav of its mother, meaning the female animal, as opposed to milk that may have been produced. They found some milk inside a male animal, that's not really included. Next, b'chalav imoy is coming to exclude the b'chalav shchuta. Here it is. We speak about this all the time, right? The chalav found inside a shechted animal. That's not chalav imoy. Chalav imoy means that it was drawn from the mother while it's alive. So this type of milk with meat is not asur min ha-Torah, midrabanan is, but not min ha-Torah. And finally, b'chalav imay, in its mother's milk, only milk of a kosher type, v'loi, as opposed to b'chalav of tmei of an unkosher animal. Now the question is, how can we learn 6 things out of 3 psukim? Ha, tlasa, gedi, ksiv. It only says 3 times, and we're attempting to learn 6 things. V'anashita darshinan. We have to try to somehow condense, double things up, and free some sukkim. Oh, kasara Shmuel. The answer is Shmuel holds Isr chal al Isr. But based on these psukim, we will learn that by basar b'chalav you can have one Isr apply itself to a pre-existing Isr. We could double up Isurim. Rashi explains like this. It says L'savashal gedi b'chalav imay 3 times. And really, it didn't really have to say any of them. Why? Look, the pasuk could have said L'savashal b'chalav imay. Don't cook it in its mother's milk. Now, obviously, we're talking about meat. Don't cook it in its mother's milk. So, in effect, the word gedi was never really needed. So now we have 3 gedis, which are extra. which will allow us to learn all these things. Explains Rashi. The first Gedi tells us that even when you have material which is already asur, like forbidden fat, like nevela, but now that it's cooked with milk, it generates an additional layer of isur. Isur is chal, it lands, it doubles up on the pre-existing isur. But they can both be learned from the same pasuk because they're both the same concept. You don't need a separate pasuk for chaylev with milk and nevela with milk. So now we saved ourselves one pasuk, right? Isur chal, isur chaylev, and the isur of chaylev then mixed with milk, umeisa, or the nevela mixed with milk, to tell you that the isur doubles up, mechad kornavki, they both learn from the same pasuk. Okay, so these two are now condensed in one pasuk. So we saved ourselves a pasuk. Mechad kornavki. To exclude blood, to say that it's not considered, flesh. Dam nami lav gedihu. Obviously, it's not gedi. You don't need a special pasuk for that. It's just excluded from the simple, basic, implication of the word gedi. You don't need a separate pasuk for that. And the same thing with the shilya, the sack around the embryo. The shilya nami pirsha ba'amu is just waste material. It's not really. So we're still left with two gedis. Parshanut-torah. One is chad l'rabis ashlil, to cover the feeders, to include that as under the category of meat. V'chad l'muti behemet mei, wanted to exclude the unkosher varieties. Ask the Gemara, Savar Shmuel Isur Chal Isur, is that true that according to Shmuel you can double up Isurim? V'amar Shmuel quotes Mishmur Belazar. On to a slightly different topic here, but we're going to come back home in a minute. Minayin l'koyin tamei she'achal truma tmeya she'ena b'misa. Typically, when a koyin who is personally tamei, he not only truma, if he does, he gets misa. Misa v'dei shamayim. On the other hand, if the koyin is perfectly tahor, but the material, the truma, happens to be tamei, there is an isur, but Rashi says it's not as severe as personal tumah. It's only an isur asay. You meant to refrain from it, right? Without, liability, without, of misa, right? Now let's say they both come together. He's tamei and the truma is tamei. The gavra and the chefzer, right? So what happens to him? Menayin l'koyin tamei shachal truma tamei. What if a koyin who is tamei ate truma which is tamei? So in itself is already disqualified. She'enu b'misa is not going to be open to misa. Shanamar, the pasuk says, the kohen is liable to death because he desecrated the truma when he ate it when he was tamei. Prat lazu, as opposed to when the truma itself is already disqualified. It's already bereft of kedusha. It's already tamei. The question is, why is he exempt? I mean, I understand there's a pre-existing isser there, whatever, but isur chalal isser. You can double up isurim. There's no issue with that, according to Shmuel. So why shouldn't he be getting misa? We have three terutzim. One teretz is ba'alma isur chalal isur. Yeah, typically you can double it up. Shani hasam demiyed kruach mana. But here it's an exception. The Torah excludes umesu boy. The misa is only applicable when the person was tamei and the truma was tahor. So that excludes this case, where the truma itself is already tamei as well. Another teretz is ba'alma kasavar Shmuel einas chalal isur. Really? Typically Shmuel does not hold you can double up isurim. So there's a pre-existing isur. It's already saturated with isur. You can't push in more isur. Mishani hacha. But basar b'chalav is different. There's a special pasuk that is an exceptional case. The Rabbi Rachman Agdid, there's an extra gedid to tell you that even though it's already asur, when it gets cooked with milk, that's a new metzius, it's a new entity. And now there's a new isur as well. Another way to answer this apparent contradiction is two different people speaking. Hadidei Rabbi. Shmuel himself initially said, yeah, you can double up Yisurim, but later on when Shmuel spoke about the Truma, it wasn't his own personal opinion, he was quoting his Rebbe, Rabbi Lazar, a different source. Boy minei Rabbi Chadvo, he asked the question, Barami Mirav. Hamavasha b'cholav gedish lo yinika ma'u. Since the Torah specifies that he's cooking meat in his mother's milk, what if it's not a mother yet? It's a gedi, it's a goat or whatever, a cow, which hadn't yet actually given birth. And Rashi explains that the animal is already presenting milk in its udders because of the impending birth, but it hadn't yet birthed. Now, what happens there? Is this milk considered asur for basar b'chalav, or perhaps not? It's not yet a mother. It's not yet imoy. Now, Amalesi says, of course it is. Since Shmuel was required to bring a special pasuk to tell you zachar as opposed to milk from a male animal. What does that tell you? Zachar, that only the chalev of a zachar is excluded because he could never potentially become a birther. Aval hai, but this female cow, kivon de bo chaleim, since it will arrive at the status of an aim, it can have birth. Asur, certainly it's considered basar b'chalav. Itmar, comes a new question. Amavashal chalev b'chalav. He actually cooked his forbidden fat with milk. And the Gemara is assuming that he ate it. The question is about eating it. Is it considered a basar b'chalav product regarding consumption? Rabbi Ami had a machlokes with Rabbi Yasi. Chadamar one says, loiki gets malchus for eating basar b'chalav. Chadamar ain't like it. One says it doesn't get malchus. What's the machlokes about? Lema, perhaps we can propose, but the machlokes revolves around the following question. Do we double up isurim? Do we apply the additional isra basar b'chalav on a pre-existing isra of chalev? Lema b'kamiflik. The madamar like the one that applies malchus, because somebody holds isur chalal isur. One isur can land on the other. Uman Omar Eina, like the one says that he's exempt from malchus for eating basar b'chalav, because somebody holds ein isur chalal isur. You can't double up isurim, and since it's already asur on account of its chalev status, you can't add any more. Loi, no. The kulyam all agree ein isur chalal isur. You can't double up isurim. And you're right. Achila, regarding its consumption, of course he's exempt. The kulyam lepligid leloki all agree he's not going to get malchus on account of basar b'chalav, because it's already asur on account of a previous isur. The question is regarding cooking this matter. Because you realize, with respect to the act of cooking, there is no pre-existing isur. Because there's no isur to cook chalev. I mean, you can't eat chalev, you could cook it. So now when you're cooking that chalev with chalav, it's a new phenomenon. You're introducing a new isur. And that's the question. The question arises regarding cooking it. Mandamar, like the one that says that gets malchus for cooking chalev and chalav, he holds very simply, chad isuru. It's the first time there's an isur with respect to cooking. It's not doubling up. Of course he gets malchus. Mandamar, like the one that says there's no malchus for cooking fat with milk. Why? Lahachi afka rachmana. If you look at the psukim, you find it interesting phenomenon. The pasuk speaks about cooking, even though we all know that one is for forbidding the act of cooking, one is to forbid eating it, one is to forbid having any benefit, right? So why does the Torah repeat if one of them is about eating it? You know why? That's why the Torah referred to eating b'loshen bishul and called it bishul, to tell you it's related. It's almost like, the cooking of this mix is a preparation. You're generating material on which there's an issa to consume. But it's very closely related. Kivan, it's interrelated. Suppose you have a mix of something with milk, which if you would go ahead and eat it later, after it's cooked, you wouldn't be liable. Such as the chayla, which already had a pre-existing issa. Now that's cooked with milk, you can't add another issa onto that. So there's no malchus for eating it. Guess what? He doesn't get malchus for cooking it either. Because if you don't get malchus for the end product, for consuming the end product, you don't get malchus for preparing it, so to speak. And that's why the Torah referred to even the eating process as lois savashal, because they're connected. Okay, that's one way to learn the machlekes. V'yikad amri, there's yet another way to learn this machlekes. Again, we're speaking that he cooked chalev and chalav. Some say there is malchus, some say there isn't. V'yikad amri abishul kulam l'pigid l'loki. All agree for cooking it. Of course, you get malchus because there's no double isser there. It's the first time he's encountering an isser. There's no isser to cook chalev per se. So now that he's cooking it with milk, there's an isser. There's malchus. The question is regarding eating this product. Manda Omar ain't like it. One that says there's no malchus. Well, that's pretty simple. You can't double up isurim. The chayil was already usher beforehand. You can't add another one. Umanda Omar like it. The one that holds that there is malchus. You know why? Here it's an exceptional case. He takes the same svara, the same sort of formula, and he twists it around. It goes the other way. You know why? The Torah used the lashon of bishul in relation to eating, with respect to eating it, to connect it to, but the other way around. Kivun da bishul lucky. To tell you that if he gets malchus for cooking it, for preparing it, achil nami lucky. Subsequently, when he sits down and has this meal, he gets malchus for it too, despite the fact that the item there is already usher from beforehand. He generated a new entity, so to speak. Yeah, beforehand it was just plain fat. Now it's a new metzius. It's a new phenomenon. It's a new product. Brand new entity called a mix of milk and meat. And if he gets malchus for the cooking, which means to say that he now generated a new forbidden entity, so if he sits down and eats this new entity, he's chayiv. A new. Achila nami laki. Ibai semer. Is yet a third way to understand this machlekes. Guess what? There really is no machlekes. They're speaking about different things. He's speaking about the malchus for cooking it. He's speaking about non-malchus for eating it. Another way to learn, mar or marachada, between Rav Ami and Rav Asi, there was no machlekes at all when he mixed the chalev and the chalav. He's speaking about the cooking process, in which case he gets malchus, because there's no doubling isuring there. There's no issur to cook chalev per se, so when he cooks it with milk, there's an issur and there's malchus. And the one that says that is exempt is talking about eating it. Well, for eating it was already asur on account of its chalev status. So there's no issur, no malchus for eating it with milk. He spoke about one phenomena. Mar Marchada spoke about a different aspect. There really is no machlekes between the two. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We describe in great detail the process of salting meat. You can do a whole bunch at a time. Inekli menukov, rinsed, salted, rinsed. One must make sure not to have the blood embedded in the evarim as the animal experiences his post-shchita experience. We spoke about the question of which materials are also with chalav, whether it's behema chayiv v'oiv, whether it's just behema v'chayo, or whether it's just behema, minat Torah. We spoke about the fact that it has to be behema Torah for sure, but it's not limited to gedi. Covers all types of kosher, animals, para, rachel, etc. And then we had the whole printout of Shmuel. What is considered basar needs to be really basar, as opposed to the shilya, as opposed to dam. We ruled out the chalav of a zachar, the chalav of a shchuta, the chalav of behema tmeya. We did, however, include the chalev and the mesa, despite the fact that they're already asur. Okay, so going to Shmuel, we have an extra pasuk to add the basar chalav onto those items as well. We spoke about the chalav of a female cow prior to birth, which is also included. And we had an interesting machlekes regarding cooking chalev and chalav, and several ways to explain that machlekes. All the best to you. Thanks for listening. Hatzlacha Rab.